I still remember the exact moment my mother looked at me over the phone, voice tight and whispering like someone might overhear, even though she was the one who called me. And she said, "Don't come for Christmas. You'll embarrass us." And as if that didn't cut deep enough, I heard my sister in the background, laughing under her breath before she shouted, "Yeah, stay home. He hates nobodies." She meant my brother-in-law, a man who barely knows me, a man who made more money than I ever have, and suddenly, because my life didn't look shiny enough, I became the problem they needed to hide. Tell me honestly, would you have gone anyway? Would I have been wrong for showing up after hearing something like that? It hit me like someone had slapped me across the face. One minute I was standing in my tiny kitchen, stirring instant noodles I could barely afford, thinking about how, even though things had been rough that year, at least Christmas meant I'd be around family. I thought there'd be warmth, laughter, maybe some teasing like always, but nothing cruel. Instead, my mother sounded ashamed of me, like I was something to be tucked away, like a stain you cover with a rug. And hearing my sister sneer like that, so casually, so confidently, like I wasn't even human, it broke something inside me. In that moment I wondered, am I truly that much of a disappointment? Or is there something darker going on that I'm too blind to see? But let me rewind, so this actually makes sense. I didn't grow up poor, and I didn't grow up rich. My parents worked normal jobs. My sister was always the golden child, and I was always the quiet one. The one who liked drawing, reading, dreaming. My parents said they supported me, but support always came with strings. When will you get a real job? Why don't you be more like your sister? She was the achiever, the straight-A student, the one who got into a prestigious university, and married a man who owned his own company by 30. I was the guy who tried college, dropped out due to circumstances I never fully recovered from, and then bounced from job to job while trying to figure out how to breathe without feeling like a failure. A couple of years ago, I lost my job after the company downsized. Around the same time, my girlfriend of 4 years left me, said she couldn't build a future with someone who couldn't guarantee stability. It crushed me. Depression isn't glamorous. It's not poetic. It's heavy, ugly, slow. I tried to keep up appearances, but inside I felt like I was drowning. I took small jobs where I could. Delivery work, freelancing, anything to scrape by. I didn't ask my parents for money because I knew what would come with it. Judgment disguised as concern. My sister, meanwhile, had just moved into a huge house with a backyard and chandeliers. Family gatherings slowly shifted toward her place and her schedule, like gravity bending toward the person who had the most status. This Christmas was supposed to be the first one since my dad passed away. He died quietly, suddenly, a heart attack nobody expected. He was tough, stubborn, but he loved us in his own way. I thought maybe, just maybe, this Christmas would be about being together, grieving, remembering him. Instead, it turned into a performance. My sister had invited her husband's business partners and some of their families. It wasn't a simple family Christmas anymore. It was a show, a networking opportunity dressed in twinkling lights. I found out the truth accidentally. Mom called me to talk, and I could sense immediately something was off. She sounded like she was rehearsing, carefully choosing each word. Then she finally said it. "Honey, maybe it's better if you don't come this year. It's just different. We're having important guests. I don't want you to feel uncomfortable." That's how she started. Soft, polite, but underneath it was something darker. I tried to laugh. I said, "Why would I be uncomfortable? It's family." She paused. Then she sighed. And then came the real line. "You'll embarrass us." Those 3 words tore into me. Before I could even respond, my sister practically yelled from across the room, clearly not realizing Mom's phone wasn't muted. "Just tell him the truth. He's a nobody. He doesn't even have a car. He'll make us look bad. And you know how my husband hates nobodies. He'll never let it go." Then she laughed again, like it was the most normal thing in the world. To say something like that about your own brother. I froze. Everything inside me went cold. I felt small, like a bug, like I didn't belong anywhere. I didn't yell. I didn't cry while on the phone. I simply said, "Okay, sure, I get it." My mom rushed to add, "We love you. It's just complicated. Maybe next year." But I'd stopped listening. I hung up gently, placed the phone on the counter, and just stood there staring at nothing. My noodles had overcooked and turned mushy, but I barely even noticed. I thought about every Christmas before this, every sacrifice I had tried to make, every moment I told myself my family loved me despite everything, and then the realization sank in that maybe they only loved the version of me that could be bragged about. The days leading up to Christmas were torture. Social media made it worse. My sister posting photos of gift-wrapped boxes bigger than my entire table. My mom smiling under garlands and golden lights. Captions like, "Family means everything and blessed beyond measure." I stared at those words, feeling my chest tighten. I debated blocking them. I debated confronting them. Mostly, I just sat alone in my apartment listening to the wind, and the occasional car passing outside. But the thing is, anger doesn't stay quiet forever. It builds, it simmers, and slowly it turned into something else. Not spite exactly, but clarity. I replayed their words over and over. He hates nobodies. He'll embarrass us. It wasn't about me coming, or not coming. It was about their image. My existence threatened their carefully crafted facade, and that realization lit a fire in me. I wasn't some stain they could hide. I was their son, their brother, and they had crossed a line. At first I considered just cutting them off. No calls, no visits. Let them enjoy their perfect little world. But then another thought crept in. One I'm still torn about. What if I showed up anyway? Not to scream, not to fight, but to expose the truth, to make them face what they had done. Part of me wanted to see the look on their faces when I walked through that door. Uninvited, unwanted. Part of me wanted to reclaim my dignity. So that was the situation I was in. Either stay home and swallow that humiliation forever, or walk in and risk making everything worse. Before I tell you what happened next, I actually want you to think about it. Put yourself in my shoes with those words ringing in your ears. Would you have gone? Would you have confronted them? Or would you have stayed quiet to avoid more pain? Seriously, pause for a second and tell me in the comments what you would have done, because I still wonder if my choice was right. Christmas Eve came. Cold, silent. My city glowed with lights, but it felt hollow. I hadn't slept much the night before because I decided I was going. I didn't dress fancy. I wore clean jeans, a sweater I'd had for years, and an old coat. Nothing flashy, just me. I scraped together enough bus fare and traveled across town, staring out the window while my stomach churned. By the time I reached their neighborhood, I could already hear laughter and music from inside the house. Their place looked like something out of a magazine. Cars lined the driveway. Big ones, shiny ones. I stood outside for a moment, breathing in the cold air, trying to steady myself. My hands were shaking. I could have walked away right there. I could have gone home and pretended I never came, but I rang the bell. The door opened, and immediately my sister's face went pale. She didn't even greet me. She just stared like I was a ghost. My mom appeared behind her, eyes wide. "What are you doing here?" she whispered harshly. I forced a smile. "It's Christmas," I said quietly. I wanted to see my family. Conversations inside fell into hushes as people began noticing me. My brother-in-law walked up, holding a glass of expensive-looking wine. He looked me up and down like I was something an animal dragged in. "Didn't we say it was just close family tonight?" he said to my sister, not even addressing me directly. I felt my face heat, but I stood my ground. "I'm close family," I said. My voice didn't shake this time. There was this awkward silence. Guests exchanged glances. My mom tried to plaster on a fake smile and usher me in, probably to avoid a scene. But the tension was thick. We sat at the table, and everything felt forced. Conversation flowed around money. Vacations, renovations, business deals. Nobody asked me. Anything beyond shallow small talk like, "So, what have you been up to?" And when I answered honestly, briefly mentioning I was still trying to find stable work, there were those pitying smiles, those polite nods, like I was some charity case someone dragged in. Then it happened. One of my sister's guests, clearly drunk, leaned back and joked, "So you're the one who doesn't have a job, right? Must be nice not having responsibilities." Everyone laughed nervously. My sister shot him a look, but nobody defended me. My mom whispered, "Just ignore it." I felt something snap. I set my fork down, took a breath, and I said calmly, "You know what's funny? I actually wasn't even supposed to be here. My mom told me not to come because I'd embarrass them, and my sister said her husband hates nobodies. That's what I am to them. A nobody they didn't want ruining the picture." You could hear a pin drop. My sister's face turned crimson. My mom looked like she might faint. My brother-in-law straightened in his chair, jaw tight. A couple guests coughed awkwardly. But I didn't stop. Years of swallowed shame poured out. I talked about losing my job, about depression, about trying, struggling, hurting. I said, "I may not have money. I may not have what all of you have, but I'm still a human being. I'm still part of this family. And if that's embarrassing to you, then maybe the problem isn't me." My mom began crying quietly. My sister snapped back, "Why are you making a scene?" "This isn't the time," her husband muttered. "Unbelievable." I stood up, tears burning behind my eyes, and said, "Yeah, you're right. This isn't the time, because the time to treat me like family was long before tonight." And then I walked out. The cold air outside felt like freedom and heartbreak all at once. I didn't slam doors. I didn't scream. I just left. I walked to the bus stop under the Christmas lights and sat there alone, feeling like I'd just torn open a wound that might never heal. My phone buzzed with messages. My mom apologizing, blaming stress. My sister defending herself, saying I misunderstood, saying it was for my own good. My brother-in-law didn't say anything. That silence told me everything. The aftermath was messy. For weeks, my mom tried to smooth things over. She said she felt ashamed, not of me, but of what she'd become. For the first time, she admitted she was afraid of being judged by my sister's new social circle. She said she didn't realize how cruel it sounded, even though she did. My sister didn't apologize, not really. She said, "You always make everything about you." We didn't talk for months after that, but something changed in me, as painful as it was. That Christmas taught me I don't need to shrink myself to fit someone else's image. I started therapy. I took my time rebuilding. I found steadier work, nothing glamorous but honest. And slowly the shame lifted. When I finally saw my mom months later, we hugged and cried, and she said, "I'm sorry, truly sorry." I believe she meant it, even though the scar remains. My sister and I still have distance between us. Maybe we always will. And here's the strange part. Even though that Christmas hurt more than anything, it also woke me up. It showed me who stood with me and who only stood with the version of me they could brag about. Family is supposed to be love, not performance, not conditions, not as long as you make us look good. If you made it this far, thank you for listening to my story. Maybe someone out there needed to hear this. If you've ever felt like the outsider in your own family, I'm right there with you. Like this video if you are on my side, if you think what they did was wrong. Subscribe for more stories like this, because I've got plenty more to share. And let me know in the comments what you think about this whole mess. Was I wrong? Should I have stayed quiet? Or did they finally need to hear the truth? I'll see you all in the next story.